It's definitely a no-no for us not to congregate, with those that deal with the Kemetic school of thought when it comes spiritually. Now, when it comes to certain national issues, because we know that there are people, we wouldn't watch the government do anything to them because they deal with the Kemetic school of thought. We want to be right there on the front line with them, to fight. Like if somebody try to do something inside Netta, you understand what I'm saying, or Shaka Akmos, or, SETI, or Natcha Tahudi, or Polite, I'm there. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to let nothing happen to them. I'm able to put the difference of doctrinal differences to the side when it comes to unifying on that stance, on a nationalistic level. But when it comes to doctrinal spirituality, I can't play it.
Absolutely. So let me switch gears a little bit and ask you, what is the role for women in Israel?
Okay, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Some people will say that's something for a woman to ask, but I beg to differ. I think what's happening right now, there's going to be a major quickening within our nation, and it's happening right now. Whether we're talking about polygyny, whether we're talking about the role of men, the role of women, I think men and women in our culture are equal, but equality doesn't mean sameness. Our roles are different. What's happening with the men and women in the society, we're crossing over Western ideology and understanding of Hebrew Israelite culture. We're confusing womanhood with feminism, and what has happened when you actually study slavery and post-slavery, there was a war with the Euro-Gentile woman, or the so-called white woman, with her counterpart. And because when you look at Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, the so-called Negro, nor those that were under 21 years of age and those that were mentally insane and so-called white women, they didn't have equal rights to those over 21, meaning those that were initiated in their different secret society Masonic orders. So the so-called white woman, when she created the feminist movement, that was a reaction to counter the injustice of her man, okay? And what the so-called black woman has done, because of the fall of the so-called black man after the Vietnam War, they took up the stance of the so-called white woman and took that torch, because the so-called white woman was afraid to fight her man. So she used the so-called black woman to fight her battle. And in that, it caused an imbalance within the family structure. So now when you have righteous men that try to take a stance, this government has used tokens of freedom to capture our women, such as Section 8, such as welfare, such as college grants, such as better jobs. All these things were purposely done to stop the momentum of the rise of the so-called black man from out of this state. And we see this in the 3rd chapter of Yeshaya or Yeshayahu or Isaiah. You see that men are to be cut down first, because the man is the head. Not the head in the sense of ruling over the woman as if she's below her, but the head based upon our theocratic social order. And see, and this is what we're confusing. We're confusing patriarchism with patrilinealism. Patriotism is male dominance. The Israelites weren't patriotic. They were neither matriarchic, but they were patrilineal, meaning that they traced their lineage through the male seed. But our society was Adamic in nature. There was a balance. If there was a king, there was a queen. If there was a prince, there was a princess. If there was a son, there was a daughter. So there has always been a balance. Just as if you look at a battle, you have a positive and you have a negative. If you're dealing with multiplication or mathematics, if you're talking about there's a plus sign, there's a minus sign. So there's always been, even in, Chinese Taoism or Shintoism or Confucianism, you have the yin and the yang. So the shield of David, you have the vertical and the horizontal. So you always had this balance. So in Israelite culture, we're not patriarchal nor matriarchal. We're Adamic, or better yet, Edenic in nature. So it's imperative for the sisters to let the brothers take their rightful stand and not to hinder the brothers to move as men of Yah. We have to be able to take our rod and our staff, you understand what I'm saying, and stand as men. And the only way that's going to happen for real, quiet as it's kept, is the sisters. The sisters are the ones that are the backbone and the power source of the nation. Without the sisters, there is no nation. So the sisters, they have to come together to help bring forth the man, the rise of the man. Let me read a scripture to you real fast to validate what I'm saying. Okay? In Isaiah, okay, chapter 4, verse 1. Okay? Now, a lot of people take this verse to speak about it's okay for a man to have more than one wife. Now, that's partially true. That's partially true. But that's not the full matrix of what is being spoken about. It says in verse 4 of Isaiah, I was in Jeremiah, Salachi. It reads on this wise. In that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own food and wear our own clothes. Only let us be called by your name. Take away our disgrace. Now, the word 7, or the number 7, was a sign of completion in our culture. So in this sense right here, it's talking about a man, he may take more than one wife, but it doesn't define how many. It just says that he will be complete with these women. But these women, when it says we will bring our own food and our own clothes, something must be taking place in the situation that they're in, because they're in a disgrace mode right now. So what's happening, because 2/3 of our nation is going to be chopped down. More brothers is turning to homosexuality. More brothers is out here on drugs. More brothers are getting murdered. More brothers are getting locked up. So the brothers that's conscious is going to be a few. It's going to be few enough. As a matter of fact, it's going to be more conscious Hebrew Israelite sisters than brothers. Even if you look on Facebook, there's more conscious sisters on Facebook than brothers. If you go to different Israelite congregations, it's more sisters than brothers. You know, I went there a couple of weeks ago, I went to GOCC. There's more sisters than brothers. So to say that, to say that they're going to be in a position of power, and they're going to see a righteous man or righteous men, and they're going to gravitate to the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But that righteous man may not have what they have, because the way the government over there is designed to have the woman to excel, so she would never take heed to that righteous man that's a truck driver, or he's a trash truck picker, or he's a teacher, or he's a police officer, or whatever the case may be, or he's one that sells incense oils, or write books, or he do poetry, whatever the case may be, or he just teach on corners. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of the situation is she's going to use her power to rise him up. And then once he's risen, then she can take his hand, and then they can both move accordingly. Because back then we had what was called hereditary property. So if I'm a father, then my riches are being passed down to my firstborn son, and on and on and on. So since we have been stripped of that and been put in a position of helplessness and being powerless, the sisters gonna be like, man, we ain't going for that. We're gonna help build our nation back up. And that's what's gonna transpire. But that doesn't mean that brothers should get a sister and take advantage of that sister because she's trying to help them. A brother, even if you look at, even though I don't agree fully with Polite, but there's some things that I agree with him when, he was a person just like us. He was on the street doing his thing, and he said his wife gave him some money, and from there he never turned back. And this is what you see of him today. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to judge him or whatever he's doing. That's his business. But I'm just trying to shed a clue that it took a strong woman to give him the strength and the driving force to push. And that's what he did, and that's where he's at today.
Okay. So I think you touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to just bring it back up a little bit just so we can focus on that. So as you mentioned, there are several different camps.
Okay.
A lot of different camps. You know, people, they do their YouTube videos, they preach on the streets. What do you think the best course of action is to get them together?
That's a real good question. I think the best course for us is the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
The leadership has to stop being selfish. Because right now, not all camps, but you have some camps that believe if it's not coming from them, then it's not the truth.
Right.
You know, and we got to understand that this is not a religion. This is a nation. So we have to understand that Israel is scattered in the four corners of the earth. So we have different social experiences, meaning the Israelites that's in Japan, the things that they're going through socially is different from what we're going through over here, even though they're experiencing the curses. You know, the Israelites that's going through what they're going through in India, throughout the African diaspora, throughout Europe, the Caribbean islands, and even over here in the States. There were different times and eras that we rose mentally, psychologically, spiritually as a nation of people. So we have to consider and reconsider, you know, that we're going to have Israelites that may have Chinese attire on, with fringes on, that may have somewhat of an Oriental look because of the amalgamation of being amongst the nations and even certain differences and understanding. But we have to understand and have sympathy and empathy for our diaspora and what we went through as a people. You know, we can't be selfish and think that one Pacific camp just has all the truth. The truth for us is coming in measure because we lost our culture in measure. We didn't just wake up as a nation and just lost our culture. It was a process of elimination, you know, of losing our culture. And I think this is why a lot of the camps can gravitate to me, because I understand the psychological, socialistic, down spiraling situations that took place in our culture and in our nation. And until we're able to appreciate where each camp can give, then there will always be separation. But it starts with the leaders. The leaders have to stop with the camp trip and say, you know what? We need to come as a nation.
Absolutely.
We need to stop putting our business out on Facebook, YouTube. We need to stop this madness.
Yeah.
We're being watched. As a matter of fact, if you watch the movie Menace to Society, what did The Rock tell the brother? He said, we be a hunter. So they're watching us, and they have psychologists and psychiatrists around the clock, literally paid just to watch how we act socially.
Yeah, see how far we're getting.
How far we
Or
get.
how far we're not getting.
Absolutely. Just like we just did, me, you, and a couple of priests down the aisle, Hellraiser, you know, L. Miller, and a whole bunch of us, Basim from Global Media. We just did what? The America on Trial. You know, 100 Years of Lynching. The same night we did it. It's the same night it got banned. And you see they can do what they do because we are not equipped to fight this beast because we so busy fighting one another. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So this whole thing going back and forth about dead pharaohs and mummies and pyramids and what came first and that and this, the other nations, they're on a whole nother level. They out in space while we still talking about dead pharaohs. They are out in space. They are advancing in technology. Do we know how to irrigate land? Do we know how to create government, technology? Yes, we know that black people like Henry Sampson, he created the first cell phone, which was a so-called black man. But how did that benefit us as a people when it comes to technology? When you look at the so-called Orientals or the Japanese and the Chinese, they have technology patent that enhances the betterment of their nation and society. We, because we love to amalgamate and imitate and be the mockingbirds that we are, we can't never bring nothing to benefit us as a nation. Even when we start talking about so-called black-owned, Hispanic-owned, and Native American-owned businesses, we tend to hire everybody. You know, you got the so-called Jews, they might have Rosenberg and Son, Steinberg and Son. When they put that son there, that's not just talking about their Pacific sons right there within their generation, that the sons, they're talking about future generations. And this is why they're able to, you know, be proud if you go out into Crown Heights in Brooklyn. They got their own communities, they got their own buses, they got their own police, they got their own schools, they got everything. They're a nation inside of a nation. Whereas though, when you talk about you so-called black, African American, Hispanic, now you're talking about being protected under the 14th Amendment, which you think, but it's really defining you as property, and property have no rights, not human rights. They only have civil rights, and them civil rights is artificial. So we have to stop camp tripping, and as I said, it starts with the leaders. So yeah, I'm calling out the leaders. Yeah, the mighty leader, I'm calling out the leaders. I'm saying the leaders in Israel, we have to come together and sit amongst the round table and come up with ideas to glue us together as a nation. Okay, we have differences. Yes, I'm Torah-centered, but I can sit amongst my Messianic brother who may believe in Yahweh Shai or Yeshua, and I can still build, because I know at the end of the day, before there was a New Testament, Yeshua followed the Torah. He was Torah-oriented. He was a freedom fighter. He was a revolutionary just like us. You got revolutionaries today such as, you know, Kasud the damn like historian, Nasi Yashavel, Masov, Priest Dana Allah, General Hashar. You know what I'm saying? They all over. Bassel, you know, Brother Mikael out in Chicago, Illinois, Michael Edwards. You have revolutionaries all over within Israel. We made General Yohana, you know, Captain Cesaria. So we have these revolutionaries and strong, brilliant-minded people around us, but the separation is still there. So we have to figure out how to stop the separation. And one of the ways to stop the separation, we have to stop having outsiders infiltrate to keep us separated. We have to get them out the way, and we have to come amongst the round table and break bread and wine and start to patch up our nation.
Absolutely. So I want to move into your hip hop influence and your hip hop family. Obviously, you know your family, the Hellraiser and Killer Priest, and amongst others. So tell me a little bit about, you know, how that's influenced you, and do you have anything coming up with music?
Absolutely. Hip hop has definitely been an influence in my life. I've always been different. Even when I was coming up as a young son, while everybody was listening to Scarface, you know, or Ghetto Boys, even though I love Bragg, you know what I'm saying? But I was listening to Poor Righteous Teachers.